Jake Morrison pushed through the crowded market hall of Nexus Station, carrying a heavy bag of supplies over his shoulder. The space station was huge and busy, filled with aliens from dozens of different worlds. Their strange voices mixed together in a loud buzz that never stopped. Some looked almost human, while others were so different that Jake had to remind himself not to stare. He stopped at a food stand to buy lunch and heard two alien traders talking about something interesting. One was tall and blue with 4 arms, while the other looked like a giant insect walking on 2 legs. 3 years now, the blue alien was saying. 3 years that ship has been sitting there, and nobody can get inside. What ship? Jake asked, setting down his bag. The blue alien turned to look at him. Its large yellow eyes studied Jake's face for a moment. You are human, yes? From Earth colonies? That's right. Captain Jake Morrison of the Liberty's Edge. What's this about a ship? The insect alien made a clicking sound. Big mystery ship in Docking Bay 47. Very advanced technology. Many species try to claim it, but ship rejects everyone. Jake raised an eyebrow. Rejects them how? Throws them out, the blue alien said. Sometimes gently, sometimes not so gently. 17 different captains have tried. Ship won't let anyone stay aboard for more than a few minutes. After buying his lunch, Jake walked toward the docking bays. He had heard rumors about the mystery ship before, but he had never seen it himself. His own ship, the Liberty's Edge, was docked in Bay 12. It was a small cargo hauler that Jake used to move. Supplies between human colonies and alien worlds, not much to look at, but it was his. Bay 47 was easy to find because of the crowd gathered outside. Jake pushed his way to the front and saw the ship that everyone was talking about. His mouth fell open. The ship was enormous, at least 3 times bigger than any vessel Jake had ever seen. Its hull was smooth and black like polished stone. Strange blue lights ran along its sides in patterns that seemed to shift and move when he wasn't looking directly at them. The ship had no visible weapons, but something about it made Jake feel like he was looking at a sleeping giant. Beautiful, isn't she? Said a voice behind him. Jake turned to see a human woman about his age with short red hair and grease stains on her jumpsuit. Lisa Park, she said, holding out her hand. I'm an engineer. Been studying that ship for the past week. Jake Morrison, what have you learned? Lisa shook her head. Not much. The hull material is something I've never seen before. The energy readings are off the charts, but we can't figure out what's powering it. And the computer systems, they're so advanced that our scanners can barely detect them. A commotion near the ship's main entrance caught their attention. A group of tall gray aliens in military uniforms were approaching the airlock. Their leader, a female with silver markings on her face, held some kind of scanning device. Here, we go again, Lisa muttered. That's Captain Velnara of the Hegemony Fleet. She's the 18th one to try. Jake watched as the alien captain placed her hand on a panel next to the airlock. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's lights began to pulse faster. The airlock door slid open just a crack, then slammed shut again. A low humming sound came from inside the ship, growing louder and louder. Suddenly, a beam of white light shot out from the ship and surrounded the alien captain. She floated into the air, struggling and shouting in her own language. The light carried her away from the ship and set her down gently about 50 feet away. Her soldiers ran to help her up. The crowd murmured and pointed. Some aliens made sounds that Jake guessed were laughter. Captain Velnara stood up, brushed off her uniform, and walked away with as much dignity as she could manage. Same thing. Every time, Lisa said. The ship opens up just enough to scan whoever's trying to get in, then tosses them out. It's like it's looking for something specific, or someone specific, Jake said quietly. That evening, Jake sat in a bar called the Cosmic Rest with his navigator, Sam Collins. Sam was young and eager, with brown hair that always looked messy no matter how much he combed it. He had joined Jake's crew 6 months ago, fresh out of the Navigation Academy. I still think you should try it, Sam said, taking a sip of his drink. What's the worst that could happen? The ship throws you out like everyone else? That's exactly what would happen, Jake replied. I'm nobody special, just a cargo hauler trying to make a living. But you're human, Sam pointed out. Maybe that matters. Jake had been thinking the same thing, but he didn't want to admit it. Most of the captains who had tried to board the mystery ship were from older, more advanced civilizations. The hegemony had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. The Vaxari had technology that humans could barely understand. They couldn't get inside the ship. What chance did a human have? But something about the ship called to him. When he looked at it, he felt a strange pull, like recognition. The ship's design was unlike anything in known space, but there was something familiar about it too. The way the lights moved, the curve of the hull. It reminded him of something, though he couldn't say what. The bounty is up to 50,000 credits now, Sam continued. The station administrators are getting desperate. They want someone to claim that ship and move it out of the bay. 50,000 credits, Jake repeated. That was more money than he made in 2 years of cargo runs. It would be enough to upgrade his ship, maybe even buy a bigger one. He could stop scraping by and actually build something. But money wasn't the only reason he was interested. The mystery ship was the most fascinating thing he had ever seen. It was a puzzle that needed solving, a challenge that called to him on some deep level. As he walked back to his own ship that night, Jake made a decision. Tomorrow morning he would try to board the mystery ship. He didn't expect to succeed where so many others had failed, but he had to try. Something told him that this ship, whatever it was important, not just to him but to all of humanity. He looked up at the station's main viewport and saw stars scattered across the darkness of space. Somewhere out there were the human colonies, small and weak compared to the great alien civilizations. Maybe it was time for that to change. Maybe the mystery ship was the key. Jake Morrison went to sleep that night dreaming of black hulls and shifting blue lights, not knowing that his life was about to change forever. Jake woke up early the next morning with butterflies in his stomach. He had barely slept, thinking about the mystery ship and what might happen when he tried to board it. Sam was still asleep in his bunk, snoring softly. Jake quietly got dressed and left their shared quarters. The station was quieter in the early morning hours. Most of the alien traders were still sleeping, and the corridors that had been packed yesterday were now nearly empty. Jake's footsteps echoed as he walked toward Docking Bay 47. He stopped at a supply shop and bought a basic translation device, the kind that could handle most alien languages. He also picked up a small emergency kit with water, food bars, and a medical scanner. If the ship did let him inside, he wanted to be prepared. When Jake reached Bay 47, he was surprised to see that the crowd was gone. Only a few maintenance workers were around, checking on other ships in nearby bays. The mystery ship sat alone in the center of the bay, its black hull reflecting the station's lights. Jake stood at the edge of the bay for several minutes, just looking at the ship. In the quiet morning light, it seemed even more impressive than before. The blue patterns along its sides were barely visible now, like they were sleeping. The ship looked peaceful, but Jake could feel the power hidden inside it. He took a deep breath and walked toward the main airlock. Each step felt important, like he was walking toward his destiny. The closer he got, the more details he could see. The ship's hull wasn't just black. It had tiny sparkles in it, like stars frozen in metal. The surface was perfectly smooth without a single scratch or dent. When Jake was about 20 feet away from the airlock, something amazing happened. The blue lights along the ship's hull began to glow brighter. They started at the back of the ship and moved forward in waves like a pulse of energy traveling through the metal. The pattern repeated 3 times, then stopped. Jake had never seen the ship do that before. In all the stories he had heard, the mystery ship only activated its systems when someone tried to touch the airlock controls. But now, it was responding to him just by being near it. He took another step forward. The lights pulsed again, brighter this time. Jake felt a strange, tingling sensation, like the air around him was full of electricity. His translation device beeped softly, picking up some kind of signal. "Hello?" Jake said quietly, feeling a little foolish. "My name is Jake Morrison. I'm a human." The response was immediate. Every light on the ship blazed to life at once, so bright that Jake had to shield his eyes. The humming sound that other people had described filled the air, but it wasn't threatening. To Jake, it sounded almost like music. Then, slowly, the main airlock began to open. Jake's heart pounded as he watched the massive door slide back. No alien captain had ever gotten this far. The ship had always scanned them and thrown them out before the airlock fully opened. But now, soft blue light spilled out of the opening, and Jake could see a corridor stretching away into the ship's interior. He hesitated for a moment. This was the point of no return. Once he stepped inside, there was no telling what would happen. The ship might accept him, or it might decide he was just another intruder and eject him like all the others. But Jake had come too far to turn back. Now, he stepped through the airlock. The moment his feet touched the ship's deck, Jake felt a gentle scanning beam pass over his body. It was warm and didn't hurt at all, but he could sense that the ship was studying him very carefully. The beam moved from his head to his feet, then back again. Jake stood still and let it happen. The airlock closed behind him with a soft hiss. Jake was now alone inside the mystery ship that had rejected every other visitor for 3 years. The corridor ahead was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The walls curved gently and were covered with panels that glowed with soft light. Strange symbols appeared on the panels, changing and shifting like living text. Jake's translation device worked frantically, trying to make sense of the alien writing. Then something incredible happened. The symbols began to change, cycling through different styles of writing. Jake recognized some of them from his travels: Vaxari script, hegemony runes, Zephyrian pictographs. But then the writing changed again, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. The symbols were now in English. Perfect, clear English letters that spelled out a simple message: "Welcome home, Captain." Jake stared at the words, hardly believing what he was seeing. The ship was communicating with him in his own language, but how did it know English? And why was it calling him Captain? As he watched, the text changed again. "Please proceed to the central hub. I have been waiting for you." A soft light appeared in the floor, creating a path that led deeper into the ship. Jake followed it, his footsteps silent on the smooth deck. The corridor branched off in several directions, but the light always showed him which way to go. The ship was enormous inside. Jake passed doors that led to rooms he couldn't see into, and corridors that stretched away into darkness. The architecture was strange but beautiful, with flowing curves instead of sharp angles. Everything was clean and new-looking, as if the ship had been built yesterday. After walking for what felt like 10 minutes, Jake reached a large circular room. The ceiling was high and domed, covered with tiny lights that looked like stars. In the center of the room was a raised platform with a single chair facing a bank of displays and controls. As Jake stepped into the room, the air in front of him began to shimmer. Light gathered and twisted, forming into the shape of a person. Jake watched in amazement as the light solidified into the hologram of a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gray hair. "Hello, Jake," the woman said, her voice warm and friendly. "My name is Aria. I am the intelligence that operates this ship. I have been waiting a very long time to meet you." Jake found his voice after a moment of stunned silence. You're the ship's computer?" "I am much more than a computer," Aria replied with a gentle smile. "I am the consciousness of this vessel. I think, I feel, I remember, and I have been alone for over 200 years waiting for a human captain to find me." 200 years? Jake repeated. "But humans have only been traveling in space for about 50 years. Aria's expression grew sad. "I know it must be confusing. There is much I need to explain to you, Jake. This ship was built by humans, but not the humans of your time. We come from your future, from a time when Earth had technology far beyond what your people have now." Jake felt dizzy. The room seemed to spin around him. "That's impossible." "I know it's hard to believe," Aria said gently. "But it's true. This ship, the Defiant Dawn, was sent on a mission to find humanity's place among the stars. We were meant to explore, to learn, to prepare the way for future human expansion. But something went wrong during our journey. We were thrown through time and space, arriving in this era instead of our own. Jake sank into the captain's chair, his mind reeling. Your crew? What happened to them? They died long ago, Arya said quietly. The temporal effects of our journey through the wormhole were too much for organic life to survive. I tried to save them, but I failed. I have been alone ever since, waiting for another human to find me. Jake looked around the incredible room, trying to process everything he had heard. Why me? I'm just a cargo hauler. Surely there are better candidates. You are exactly who I was hoping to find, Arya interrupted. Not a military officer or a government official, but a free captain who makes his own choices. Someone who understands what it means to be alone among the stars, responsible for his own ship and crew. She gestured to the displays around them. I have watched you, Jake Morrison. I have seen how you treat the aliens you do business with, how you care for your crew, how you make decisions. You are a good man, and that is what I need most. Jake was quiet for a long moment, staring at the star-like lights on the ceiling. Finally, he looked back at Arya. What do you want from me? Partnership, Arya said simply. I am tired of being alone. I want to fulfill the mission I was given, to help humanity take its place among the stars. But I cannot do it by myself. I need a captain who can work with me, who can make the hard choices that lie ahead. Jake felt the weight of her words. This wasn't just about boarding a mysterious ship anymore. This was about the future of the entire human race. There's more. You need to know, Arya continued. This ship carries within it all the knowledge and technology of the human civilization that built me. Weapons, manufacturing systems, scientific data. Everything humanity will need to defend itself in a galaxy full of older, more powerful species. Jake realized that his decision to board this ship hadn't just changed his own life. It might have changed the course of human history. And somehow, that both terrified and excited him. Jake sat in the captain's chair for a long time, trying to understand everything Arya had told him. A ship from the future, carrying advanced human technology, waiting for him specifically. It sounded like something from a science fiction movie, not real life. I know this is overwhelming, Arya said gently. Would you like to see more of the ship? It might help you understand what we're dealing with. Jake nodded, still not trusting his voice. Arya's hologram walked toward one of the corridor entrances, and Jake followed her. As they moved through the ship, lights automatically turned on ahead of them and dimmed behind them. The ship is over 2 kilometers long, Arya explained as they walked. It has 15 major sections, each designed for different purposes. We're currently in the command section. Ahead of us are the living quarters, workshops, laboratories, and manufacturing bays. They passed through a doorway into what looked like a small city. Jake stopped and stared. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it, and the space stretched, away in all directions. Buildings lined the wide walkways, but they were unlike any buildings Jake had ever seen. They seemed to grow from the floor like metal trees, with curved walls and flowing designs. This is the main residential area, Arya said. It was designed to house a crew of 500 people. Each family would have had their own apartment, with shared common areas for socializing and recreation. Jake walked down one of the wide streets, looking at the empty buildings. Through transparent walls, he could see furnished rooms waiting for people who would never come. It was beautiful, but also very sad. Your original crew, Jake said. What were they like? Arya's expression grew soft with memory. They were explorers, scientists, and engineers, the best humanity had to offer. Captain Elena Rodriguez was our leader, a brilliant woman who could make impossible decisions look easy. Dr. Marcus Webb was our chief scientist, always curious about everything. Commander Ruth Hayes ran our military operations, but she was also one of the kindest people I ever knew. They continued walking, and Arya showed Jake more wonders. A vast laboratory filled with equipment he couldn't identify. A workshop where robots stood frozen in the middle of building something. A greenhouse section where plants from Earth still grew under artificial sunlight, tended by automated systems for over 200 years. How is this possible? Jake asked, touching the leaf of a tomato plant. How can all this still be working? After so long? I maintain everything, Arya replied. I never sleep, never get tired, never forget. I have spent every day for 2 centuries keeping this ship ready for the moment when a human would find me again. They entered what Arya called the manufacturing section. Jake's eyes widened as he saw massive machines that could build almost anything. There were bays where entire smaller ships could be constructed, fabrication units that could make weapons or tools from raw materials, and computer systems that held the blueprints for thousands of different devices. This is why the ship is so important, Arya explained. With these manufacturing systems, we can build a fleet of advanced ships for humanity. We can create weapons to defend your colonies or peaceful technologies to improve your lives. The choice is yours to make. Jake picked up a strange device from one of the work tables. It looked like a pistol, but it hummed with energy when he touched it. What does this do? That's a plasma rifle, Arya said. It can cut through a foot of solid steel or stun a living being without permanent harm. The technology is about 100 years ahead of anything your current military has. Jake set the weapon down carefully. The power he was seeing scared him a little. In the wrong hands, this technology could be used to conquer entire star systems, as if reading his thoughts, Arya said. That's why I waited for the right captain. The person who commands this ship will have the power to change the balance of the galaxy. I needed to find someone who would use that power responsibly. They moved on to another section that Arya called the database core. The room was filled with glowing crystals that contained more information than Jake could imagine. Every book ever written by humans is stored here, Arya explained. Every scientific discovery, every piece of art, every song and story, the complete history and culture of humanity from its beginning until the day this ship was built. If Earth itself was destroyed, this ship could rebuild human civilization from scratch. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the survival and future of his entire species. Why was this ship really built? He asked. You said it was an exploration mission, but this looks more like an ark. Arya was quiet for a moment. You're very perceptive, Jake. The truth is, when this ship was built, humanity was facing a crisis. We had expanded into space and met older, more powerful alien civilizations. Some were friendly, but others saw humans as a threat to be eliminated before we became too strong. She gestured to the vast storage areas around them. This ship was built as insurance. If humanity was ever in danger of being wiped out, the Defiant Dawn would preserve everything we were and give us a chance to start again somewhere else. But the mission went wrong, Jake said. Yes. We were supposed to establish hidden bases in distant systems, places where humans could retreat if necessary. But the temporal accident that brought us here changed everything. Instead of arriving in empty space, we found ourselves in a time when humanity was still young and vulnerable. They reached the ship's engine room and Jake gasped. The power core was like a miniature star, contained within layers of shielding that hurt to look at directly. Energy flowed through conduits as thick as his body, feeding systems throughout. The massive ship. What kind of engine is this? Jake asked. 0-point energy extraction, Arya replied. We draw power directly from the quantum field that underlies all reality. It's completely clean and will never run out. This single engine could power all the human colonies combined. Jake realized that they had been walking for over an hour, and they had seen only a small part of the ship. The Defiant Dawn was like a self-contained world, carrying everything needed to rebuild human civilization. There's something else you need to know, Arya said as they walked back toward the command center. I wasn't the only ship built. There were others sent to different parts of the galaxy. Most of them are probably lost, but some might still be out there waiting for human captains to find them. How many others? 12 ships in total, each one designed for a different mission. Some were exploration vessels like me. Others were pure warships built to defend humanity against threats we couldn't imagine. One was a massive construction ship designed to build entire space stations. Jake felt dizzy thinking about it. 13 advanced ships scattered across the galaxy, each one powerful enough to change the balance of power between the species. And now he was the captain of one of them. As they reached the command center, Arya turned to face him. I know this is a lot to process, Jake, but I need to know if you're willing to accept the responsibility. Are you ready to be more than just a cargo hauler? Are you ready to help shape humanity's future among the stars? Jake looked around the incredible ship, thinking about everything he had seen. The empty apartments waiting for families that would never come. The weapons that could destroy fleets. The knowledge that could rebuild civilization. The technology that could make humanity a major power in the galaxy. He thought about his small cargo ship, about Sam and Lisa, about the human colonies struggling to survive in a universe full of older, stronger species. He thought about the choice that lay before him, and what it would mean for everyone he had ever known. I need time to think, Jake said finally. Arya nodded. Of course, this is not a decision to make quickly. But Jake, remember this. I have been alone for 200 years. I have waited through countless cycles of day and night for someone like you to find me. Whatever you decide, please don't make me wait much longer. Jake looked into her kind, artificial eyes and saw the loneliness there. Arya wasn't just a computer or a tool. She was a person, trapped in a machine body, who had been waiting for a friend for longer than most civilizations existed. I won't make you wait long, he promised. But first, I need to understand what being your captain really means. Jake spent the rest of the day exploring the ship with Arya. Every room held new wonders and new questions. By evening, his head was spinning with everything he had learned. When he finally left the Defiant Dawn, he felt like he was walking in a dream. Sam and Lisa were waiting for him in their ship's common room, both looking worried and excited. Well? Sam asked the moment Jake walked in. What happened? You've been gone for 8 hours. Jake sat down heavily in his favorite chair. He wanted to tell them everything, but he wasn't sure where to start. The ship, it's not what anyone thinks it is. What do you mean? Lisa asked, leaning forward. It's human, Jake said simply. Built by humans from the future. And it's been waiting for a human captain for over 200 years. Sam laughed. Come on, Jake. Be serious. But Lisa was studying Jake's face carefully. You're not joking, are you? Jake shook his head. I wish I was. The ship has an artificial intelligence named Arya. She's like a person, but made of light and computer code. She showed me weapons that could destroy entire fleets, machines that could build 100 ships and enough technology to change everything for humanity. Before his friends could respond, an alarm started sounding throughout the station. The lights in their room flickered, and they could hear voices shouting in the corridors outside. Jake's communication device buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. All ship captains report to station command immediately. Emergency meeting. The 3 humans hurried through the station's corridors toward the command center. They passed groups of aliens talking urgently in their own languages. Some looked excited, others looked worried or angry. The command center was packed with beings from dozens of different species. At the front of the room stood Administrator Veltar, his 6 arms gesturing wildly as he tried to maintain order. Attention, Veltar called out in his mechanical translator voice. We have received disturbing news. A human has successfully boarded the mystery ship in Bay 47. Several governments are demanding that we turn the ship over to them for study. Jake felt his stomach drop. Word was already spreading about his success. A tall, gray alien in military uniform stood up. The hegemony claims salvage rights to the vessel. It has been in our space for 3 years. The ship chose to be here, argued a blue-skinned Vexari captain. Our treaties clearly state that any vessel with active crew has sovereignty rights. But there is no crew, the hegemony officer replied. Only a primitive human who stumbled into something beyond his understanding. Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but before he could speak, Administrator Veltar held up 2 of his hands for silence. The situation is complicated, Veltar said. 3 different military fleets are already heading toward our station. The hegemony, the Vaxari Confederation, and the Zephyrian Empire all want access to the mystery ship. If we cannot reach an agreement, this station could become a battleground. Jake looked around the room and saw fear in many faces. Nexus Station was a peaceful trade hub, not a military base. It couldn't survive a battle between three major powers. "What does the human have to say?" asked a voice from the back of the room. All eyes turned to Jake. He stood up slowly, feeling the weight of hundreds of stares. "The ship isn't abandoned," he said clearly. "It has a crew of one, and she chose me as her captain." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The hegemony officer laughed. "A computer program is not a crew member. It is simply advanced property." "Aria is more than a program," Jake said firmly. "She thinks, she feels, she makes decisions. She's as much a person as anyone in this room." "Ridiculous," the officer replied. "No artificial intelligence can be considered a living being." Jake was about to argue when his communication device buzzed again. This time the message wasn't just for him. It appeared on every screen in the command center. "This is Aria, consciousness of the starship Defiant Dawn. I am broadcasting to all beings present. I am not property to be claimed or studied. I am a sentient being who has chosen Captain Jake Morrison as my partner. Any attempt to board this ship without permission will be considered an act of piracy." The room fell silent. Even the translator devices stopped their constant humming. The message continued. "I extend an invitation to the leaders present. Send your best representatives to speak with Captain Morrison and myself. We will discuss terms for peaceful cooperation. But understand this, I will not be taken by force." Administrator Veltar's face had gone pale. "The ship is communicating directly with our systems. That should be impossible." Jake felt a mix of pride and worry. Aria was showing her strength, but she was also making enemies. He could see anger in the faces of several alien leaders. Over the next few hours, Jake found himself in the middle of tense negotiations. Representatives from 3 different governments wanted access to Aria's technology. Some offered to buy the ship. Others threatened to take it by force. Through it all, Aria remained calm but firm. She spoke to the alien leaders through the station's communication system, answering their questions but revealing nothing about her most advanced capabilities. "You do not understand what you are dealing with," Aria told the hegemony representative during one heated exchange. "This ship was built by a human civilization far more advanced than any of your species. I carry within me the sum total of human knowledge and potential. I will not allow that knowledge to be misused." Jake realized that Aria was testing him as much as she was negotiating with the aliens. She was watching how he handled the pressure, how he made decisions under stress. Every choice he made was being judged. When a Vaxari captain suggested that Jake was too inexperienced to command such an advanced ship, Jake surprised everyone by agreeing. "You're right," he said. "I'm just a cargo hauler. I don't know anything about commanding a warship or leading a fleet. But I do know right from wrong, and I know that Aria deserves to choose her own destiny, just like any other person." The alien captain seemed taken aback by Jake's honesty. "Aria has been alone for 200 years, Jake continued. "She's preserved human knowledge and technology through centuries of waiting. She deserves respect, not to be treated like a prize, to be won." As the hours passed, Jake began to understand what Aria was really testing. It wasn't his knowledge of tactics or his leadership skills. It was his character. Would he use the ship's power to dominate others, or would he find ways to build bridges between different species? Late that night, after most of the alien representatives had returned to their ships, Jake sat alone with Aria in the Defiant Dawn's command center. "How did I do?" he asked. Aria smiled. "Better than I hoped. You could have used my power to intimidate them, but instead you chose honesty and respect. That tells me a lot about who you are." "I'm still not sure I'm the right person for this job," Jake admitted. "Neither was Captain Rodriguez when she first took command," Aria replied. "Leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about making good choices when the pressure is on. Today, you showed me that you can do that." Jake looked at the star display on the main screen. "What happens now?" "Now we wait and see what the alien fleets do when they arrive," Aria said. "But Jake, I want you to know something. Regardless of what happens, I'm grateful that you found me. For the first time in 2 centuries, I'm not alone. Jake nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling more firmly on his shoulders. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and he would have to make decisions that could affect the future of humanity among the stars. But tonight he was content to sit with his new partner and watch the stars, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. The alien fleets arrived 3 days later. Jake watched from the Defiant Dawn's command center as dozens of warships dropped out of hyperspace around Nexus Station. The hegemony brought 12 massive battleships, their gray hulls bristling with weapons. The Vexari fleet was smaller but faster, with sleek blue ships that moved like hunting cats. The Zephyrian Empire sent a mix of heavy cruisers and fighter squadrons. Impressive, Arya said, studying the tactical display. 67 ships in total. If they worked together, they could destroy this entire system. Jake felt sweat on his forehead. Are you worried? No, Arya replied calmly. Are you? Jake thought about it for a moment. 3 days ago, he would have been terrified. But now, sitting in the command chair of the most advanced ship in the galaxy, he felt strangely confident. Not really. What's our move? That depends on what they do first, Arya said. But I have a feeling we won't have to wait long to find out. She was right. Within an hour, Admiral Keseva of the Hegemony Fleet was demanding that Jake surrender the Defiant Dawn immediately. Her message appeared on every screen in the station. Human Captain, the Admiral said, her gray face stern and unforgiving. You have stolen property that belongs to the galactic community. Return the ship immediately or we will take it by force. Jake looked at Arya. What do you think? I think it's time to show them what they're really dealing with, Arya replied. But the choice is yours, Captain. How do you want to handle this? Jake stood up from the captain's chair and walked to the main display. For a moment, he thought about his old life as a cargo hauler. It had been simple, peaceful, and safe. But it had also been small. Now he had the chance to do something that mattered, something that could change the future for all of humanity. Open. A channel to all ships, Jake said. Channel open, Arya confirmed. Jake took a deep breath. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the starship Defiant Dawn. I want to make something clear to all of you. This ship is not abandoned property. She has a crew of 2, myself and Arya, the ship's artificial intelligence. We are both citizens of humanity, and we claim all the rights that come with that citizenship. Angry voices immediately started coming through the communication system. Jake held up his hand and Arya somehow made his gesture visible to all the fleet commanders. I'm not finished, Jake said firmly. I know you want access to this ship's technology. Some of you think you can take it by force. But before you try, let me show you what you're up against. Jake nodded to Arya. The Defiant Dawn's stealth systems activated, and the ship vanished from all sensors. The alien fleets immediately went into panic mode, their ships spinning in circles trying to find the massive vessel that had just disappeared. We're still here, Jake's voice came from empty space. But now you can't see us, can't track us, and can't target us. Our weapon systems are more advanced than anything in your fleets. If we wanted to, we could destroy every ship here without taking a single hit in return. The Defiant Dawn reappeared, its hull gleaming in the starlight. But we don't want to fight, Jake continued. We want to find a better way. Admiral Keseva's face appeared on the main screen, her expression furious. You cannot threaten the combined fleets of 3 empires and expect to survive, human. I'm not threatening anyone, Jake replied. I'm offering you a choice. You can. Try to take this ship by force and lose many of your people in the process. Or you can sit down and talk about a deal that benefits everyone. What kind of deal? Asked Commander Thelak of the Vexari fleet. He sounded curious despite himself. Jake looked at Arya, who nodded encouragingly. This ship carries advanced technology that could help all of your civilizations. Medical equipment that could cure diseases, power systems that could supply your worlds with clean energy, manufacturing systems that could build whatever you need. In exchange for what? Admiral Keseva demanded. Recognition, Jake said simply. Recognition that humanity has the right to exist as equals among the galactic community. treaties that guarantee the safety of human colonies, and respect for Area as a sentient being with the same rights as any other person. The alien commanders were quiet for a long moment. Jake could see them thinking, weighing the benefits of cooperation against the costs of war. "You ask for much, in exchange for promises," said General Velmoth of the Zephyrian Empire. "How do we know you will honor your agreements?" Jake smiled. "Area, show them the medical scanner." One of the Defiant Dawn's bays opened, and a small device floated out. On anti-grav generators, it approached the nearest hegemony ship and began scanning the hull. "Your ship has 17 crew members with various illnesses," Area announced. 3 have cancer, 5 have genetic disorders, and 9 have minor infections. The scanner is also detecting structural weaknesses in your ship's armor plating and engine systems. Admiral Keseva's eyes widened. That's impossible. Our medical bay didn't detect any of those conditions. Your medical technology is approximately 100 years behind ours, Area explained gently. The scanner I just used could not only detect those problems, but also fix them. The choice is yours. Jake watched the faces of the alien commanders change as they realized what they were being offered. This wasn't just about one advanced ship anymore. This was about access to technology that could change their entire civilizations. "There's something else you should know," Jake said. "We're not the only ship out there. Aria tells me there are 11 others scattered across the galaxy, each one carrying different types of human technology. If you work with us, you might have the chance to find them too." Over the next several hours, negotiations continued. Not all of the alien leaders were willing to accept Jake's offer. Admiral Kesva insisted that artificial intelligences could not be considered people. But gradually, practical concerns won out over pride. The Vaxari were the first to sign an agreement. In exchange for medical technology and power systems, they would recognize human sovereignty over their existing colonies and guarantee safe passage for human ships through Vaxari space. The Zephyrians followed, interested in the Defiant Dawn's manufacturing capabilities. They agreed to establish trade relationships with human colonies and provide protection against pirates and raiders. Even some of the hegemony ships broke ranks with their admiral, negotiating separate agreements with Jake and Area. As the agreements were signed, Jake felt the weight of history settling around him. These weren't just trade deals. They were the foundation of humanity's future among the stars. "You did well," Arya said privately to Jake, as the last of the alien fleets prepared to depart. "Better than I dared hope." "We did well," Jake corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Arya smiled. "Thank you, Jake. For the first time in 2 centuries, I feel like I have a real purpose again." Jake looked at the star display, showing the positions of human colonies scattered across dozens of systems. Soon, those colonies would be safer, more prosperous, and no longer alone in the vast galaxy. "What's our next move?" he asked. "First, we need to upgrade your old ship," Arya said. "Sam and Lisa deserve to benefit from this partnership too. Then we start searching for the other ships. There's a whole galaxy out there waiting to be explored." Jake nodded, thinking about the future that stretched ahead of them. It wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, conflicts, and difficult decisions. But for the first time since he had started flying between the stars, he felt like humanity had a real chance to thrive. "Arya," he said as they prepared to leave Nexus Station. "Yes, Captain?" "Thank you for waiting for us. Thank you for not giving up." "Thank you for finding me," Arya replied. "Thank you for proving that the humans I remembered still exist somewhere, among the stars." The Defiant Dawn turned away from the station and activated its incredible engines. As they jumped to hyperspace, Jake looked back one last time at the place where everything had changed. Then he faced forward toward the stars and the future that awaited them. Behind them, the first messages were already being sent to human colonies across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer alone, and the age of hiding in the shadows was over. The partnership between human and artificial intelligence was about to change everything, and Jake Morrison, former cargo hauler, was going to help lead the way. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the wide window of the orbital defense station and watched Earth turn slowly below him. The blue planet looked peaceful in the morning light. White clouds moved across the oceans like soft cotton. Cities sparkled like tiny diamonds on the dark continents. Jake had seen this view 1,000 times, but it never got old. The year was 2387. Humans had been living in space for over 200 years now. They built cities on the moon, grew food on Mars, and mined rocks in the asteroid belt. 5 years ago, they met their first aliens. The meeting went well. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Federation. They welcomed humans as new friends. Jake walked back to his command chair. The defense station called New Horizon was his home and his job. He commanded 50 people who watched the space around Earth. They looked for trouble, but trouble rarely came. Most days were quiet and boring. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her station nearby. She stared at 3 big screens full of numbers and moving dots. Each dot was a ship or a rock floating in space. Amy knew where every dot belonged. She had been doing this job for 3 years. "Captain," Amy said suddenly. Her voice sounded strange. "I'm getting some weird readings." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of weird?" Amy pointed at her middle screen. "Big gravity waves coming from the edge of the solar system. Really, big ones, like something huge just dropped out of hyperspace." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "How big?" Amy's fingers moved quickly over her controls. The screen changed to show new information. Her face went pale. "Sir, I count at least 9,000 ships. Maybe more." The command center went quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Amy's screen. 9,000 ships was more than the entire human space fleet. "Much more, are you sure?" Jake asked. Amy checked her readings again. "Yes, sir. 9,897 ships. They're all moving toward Earth." Jake hit the red alert button. Loud sirens started wailing throughout the station. "Get me Admiral Stone right now." Admiral Rick Stone appeared on the main screen 2 minutes later. He was an older man with gray hair and serious eyes. Behind him, Jake could see the busy command center of Earth's military headquarters. "Jake, what's the situation?" "Admiral, we have nearly 10,000 unknown ships approaching from deep space. They're not broadcasting any friendly signals." Admiral Stone's face grew dark. 10,000? That's impossible. The Federation only has a few hundred ships in this sector. "Sir, Lieutenant Carter has confirmed the count. These ships are not from the Federation." Admiral Stone was quiet for a moment. "How long until they reach Earth?" Amy spoke up. "At their current speed, about 18 hours, sir." 18 hours, Admiral Stone repeated. "Jake, I'm calling up the entire defense fleet. Get your people ready, this might be bad." The screen went dark. Jake turned to face his crew. They all looked scared. He didn't blame them. The human defense fleet had only 387 ships. They were good ships, but not nearly enough to fight 10,000 enemies. "Listen up, everyone," Jake said. "We don't know who these visitors are or what they want, but we're going to be ready for them. Amy, keep tracking those ships. Send all the data to Fleet Command. Everyone else, prepare the station for combat operations." His crew got busy. They checked weapons, tested shields, and sent messages to other defense stations. Jake watched them work and felt proud. These were good people. They would do their jobs no matter what happened. Lieutenant Danny Price called from the fighter bay. "Captain, my squadron is ready to launch. Just give the word." "Hold position for now, Danny. We need to see what these ships want first." 6 hours later, the unknown ships were close enough to see clearly. They were huge and dark, shaped like long daggers. Each ship was twice the size of Earth's biggest battleship. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of deadly fish. Commander. Lisa Bell arrived on the station with orders from Admiral Stone. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and quick hands. "Jake, I need to use your communications array. Admiral Stone wants to try talking to them." "Go ahead, Lisa, the whole system is yours." Lisa worked at the communications station for an hour. She sent messages in every language humans knew. She used Federation communication codes. She even sent simple math problems to show that humans were intelligent. Nothing worked. The alien ships stayed silent. Then suddenly they answered. The message came in perfect English. The voice was cold and mechanical. Humans of Earth. We are the Kethvar Empire. Your species has grown too quickly. You have become a threat to Galactic Order. You have 24 hours to surrender your planet unconditionally. If you refuse, we will destroy your entire species. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. You will surrender, or you will die. The message ended. The command center was completely silent. Lisa looked at Jake with wide eyes. They want us to surrender our entire planet? Jake nodded slowly. That's what they said. But we just joined the Federation 5 years ago. We've never hurt anyone. We've never even had a real war with another species. Doesn't matter to them, apparently. Amy spoke from her station. Captain, I'm detecting more ships. The count is now 9,900 exactly. Jake walked back to the window and looked down at Earth. Somewhere down there, 8 billion people were living their normal lives. They had no idea that in 24 hours, everything might end. He touched the communication button that connected him to Admiral Stone. Admiral, did you get that message? We all heard it, Jake. The President is calling an emergency meeting, but I think we both know what the answer is going to be. Jake nodded. We fight. We fight, Admiral Stone agreed. Get your people ready, Captain. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day. Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 9,900 enemy ships were getting ready to destroy his home. He thought about his sister on Mars and his parents in New York. He thought about all the places on Earth he would never see again. Then he thought about the human spirit. Humans had always been fighters. They fought diseases, disasters, and each other. They never gave up when things got hard. Maybe they couldn't win against 9,900 ships, but they could make the enemy pay a terrible price. Amy, he called out, send a message to all defense stations and ships. Tell them to prepare for battle. Tell them we're going to show these Kethvar what humans are really made of. The 24 hours passed too quickly. Captain Jake Morrison watched the enemy fleet spread out like a dark cloud around Earth. The Kethvar ships moved in perfect lines and circles. They looked like they had practiced this attack many times. Before Admiral Stone's voice came through the speakers. All ships, this is Fleet Command. The enemy has refused our request to talk. They want only surrender or death. We choose to fight. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every human who will ever be born. Make them pay for every inch of space. Jake looked at his crew on the New Horizon. They were scared but ready. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her station, tracking enemy movements. Commander, Lisa Bell worked at the weapons controls. Lieutenant Danny Price waited in his fighter, ready to launch. Jake, Admiral Stone called on the private channel. I want you to lead the first attack. Take 12 ships and hit their command group. Try to confuse them, make them think we have a plan. Jake almost laughed. Do we have a plan, Admiral? The plan is simple. We hurt them as much as we can before we die. Maybe that will make other aliens think twice about attacking Earth in the future. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Understood, Admiral. We'll give them something to remember. Jake called his squadron commanders. This is Morrison. We're going in first. Follow my lead and don't try to be heroes. We want to hit them fast and get out. Our job is to make them angry and stupid. The 12 human ships moved toward the enemy fleet. They were small compared to the massive Kethvar battleships. Jake's ship, the New Horizon, was not even a real warship. It was a defense station with engines attached, but it had big guns and thick armor. Captain, Amy said, the enemy ships are not moving to stop us. They're just watching. Jake understood. The Kethvar thought humans were too weak to be a real threat. They were wrong. Danny, launch your fighters. Everyone else, pick your targets. We hit the big ships in the center. 20 human fighters raced, ahead of the main group. Lieutenant Danny Price led them in a wild dance around the enemy ships. The fighters moved in ways that made no sense. They spun and twisted like leaves in the wind. The Kethvar tried to shoot them down, but their weapons could not track the crazy human movements. Danny's fighters were not trying to fly in straight lines or perfect formations. They flew like humans thought. Fast, wild, and unpredictable. "What are they doing?" Amy asked, watching the fighters on her screen. "They're thinking like humans," Jake said. "The aliens expect us to fight like machines, but we're not machines." Danny's voice came over the radio. He was laughing as his fighter rolled under a massive enemy laser blast. "These big ships can't turn fast enough to catch us. It's like fighting elephants with mosquitoes." The fighters reached the enemy command ships. They fired their small missiles at the huge vessels. The missiles did not do much damage, but they hit exactly where Danny aimed them, at the sensor arrays and communication dishes. Suddenly, 3 of the big Kethvar ships could not talk to each other. They started turning in different directions, trying to find the fighters that had already moved away. "Now!" Jake shouted. "All ships, full attack!" The 12 human ships charged into the confused enemy formation. Jake aimed the New Horizon at the biggest Kethvar battleship. His weapons officer, Sergeant Tony Clark, fired everything they had. The human ships did not fight like the Kethvar expected. Instead of staying in formation, each ship went in a different direction. Instead of fighting from far away, they got as close as possible. Instead of following rules, they did whatever worked. Commander Helen Ross, commanding the ship called Earth's Fury, flew her vessel between 2 enemy battleships. The aliens tried to shoot her, but they hit each other instead. Helen laughed over the radio. "They're so worried about hitting their own ships they can't shoot straight." The battle was chaos. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They hit the enemy where it hurt most, then ran away before the big guns could target them. It was not fair fighting. It was human fighting. Jake watched his weapons hit the enemy command ship. The massive vessel's shields flashed and sparked. Then something exploded inside the ship. The whole front section went dark. "Direct hit," Tony shouted. "Their main weapon is down." But the victory cost them. The Kethvar were learning fast. They started firing in all directions, not caring if they hit their own ships. 3 human vessels exploded in bright flashes. Jake felt each death like a punch to his chest. "Pull back," he ordered. "We've done enough damage here." The surviving human ships raced away from the enemy fleet. Behind them, the Kethvar formation was in chaos. 12 ships had been destroyed or badly damaged. Several more were drifting with no power. But Jake had lost 3 ships and 60 crew members. The enemy still had over 9,000 ships left. "Admiral," Jake reported, "first attack complete. We took out 12 enemy vessels and damaged several more. Cost us 3 ships. Admiral Stone's voice was grim. "Good work, Jake, but they're really angry now. The whole fleet is moving toward Earth. All ships, prepare for the main battle." Jake looked at his remaining ships. They were damaged and low on ammunition. His crew was tired and scared, but something had happened during the fight. They had seen that the enemy could be hurt. The Kethvar were not gods. They were just another species that could bleed. "Amy," Jake said, "how many enemy ships are still working?" Amy checked her screens. "About 9,883, sir. But 15 of them are moving slowly, probably damaged." Jake smiled for the first time in hours. "So we hurt them more than they hurt us?" "Yes, sir, much more." "Good. Send that information to all human ships. Let everyone know that these aliens can be beaten. It just takes more work than usual." The Kethvar fleet began moving toward Earth, like a giant metal storm. They had learned that humans were dangerous. Now they wanted to finish the fight quickly. Jake prepared his ships for the next battle. He knew most of them would not survive. But the enemy would remember this day. They would remember that humans do not give up, even when facing impossible odds. The real fight was about to begin. The Kethvar fleet moved closer to Earth like a wall of death. Their ships spread out to surround the planet completely. There would be no escape for anyone. Admiral Stone ordered all human ships to form a protective ring around Earth. But everyone knew it was not enough. Captain Jake Morrison watched the enemy approach from his command chair. The first battle had shown that humans could hurt the aliens, but the cost was terrible. For every Kethvar ship destroyed, humans lost 10 ships. The math was simple and brutal. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Carter called out. "I'm getting a strange signal from the medical ship, Mercy Angel." Jake looked at the main screen. The Mercy Angel was a hospital ship commanded by Captain Sue Martinez. It carried no weapons, only doctors and medical supplies. The ship was supposed to stay far from the fighting. "Put her through," Jake said. "Captain." Martinez appeared on the screen. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and graying hair. Behind her, Jake could see injured soldiers lying on hospital beds.